Hi everybody, this is Tina with Rehatch Designs, and I hope everybody's doing well, getting ready for Christmas. I know we're getting really close. We're also getting close to the end of our little tag series. Let's see, the last one we did was number 20, and that was our Christmas tree. I got a lot of people really like that one. This is really easy to do. It's just a matter of having the stuff to do it. I used vintage buttons on this one because I have a lot, but you certainly don't have to. And the little pearls were just, I think most of them I got from the Dollar Tree or the Dollar Bin. And the burlap, I mean, I have that sheet burlap, but you could use any burlap. And that's just for a background. And then all this lace and stuff was just pieces and scraps that I had. This is just some lace that I had tea dyed. I think I bought a tablecloth or something, and that was just a piece of it, and then just the seam binding ribbon, and that's it. And then there's just a little ripped off piece of lace that came actually from this piece. I had cut apart this trim, and that's what I did. So super simple. You did not have to do the coloring of the background like I did in those layers, but when you look up close you can see it, and that's kind of, I like the layered effect. You could have just actually put this on just some scrapbook paper or something and avoided that whole step, so it could have been even easier. Anyway, on my last video I did not mean for it to not have the music in the background. You know, I had thought I had put it in and I didn't. I uploaded. I had horrible technical problems recording and getting my video out that day, and I think I was just so happy that it finally went through, and I wasn't paying any attention to that, and I didn't do great editing on it, so I'm going to try and do better for this next one. I am going to do 2 days. Basically, I'm going to do the 21st and the 22nd kind of in one video, and I'm doing that to kind of consolidate because they're similar styles, and I thought that way I could just do it in one video. So hopefully you guys will, you know, be here to watch the rest. Okay, and then do not forget to be a subscriber and to comment, because I am it looks like I'm going to have eight winners, 3 tags apiece, and then, you know, so and there'll be some other goodies in there with it, but the thing is that you have to be able to be a subscriber in order for me to pick you, because I just can ask YouTube who the subscribers are, and if you're not a subscriber, you won't pop up on that list even if you commented. So, and then I look at those comments and I pick from that day. So depending upon the day that I pick, okay, you know, that's how it's going to be, and you will win the tags, the last 3 tags that we've done. That's just the order they're going to go in. Okay, in any case, I have that giveaway. Then I have a Christmas journal giveaway on Christmas Day, and that is basically anybody who watched a video, who commented between Halloween all the way through Christmas. Okay, so make sure that you are in that one. And then there's also one in my Facebook group, and I'll try and remember to put the link in the description box, and all you have to do on that is just be a member of my Facebook group, and I'm just going to randomly draw on that too. So it'll be basically in the order that you were in, and then my random number picker just picks, and there'll be a winner there. And I don't have that many in it. I'm trying to get it going. I really would like to share, if you guys, like, let's say you do this tag, or you do something similar, or you come up with your own idea, put it out there and share it, because I don't want it to be just about me and my stuff. Anyway, guys, so let's get on to this, and I probably will talk a little bit, or what I may do is I may do a voiceover. I don't know. Like I said, I don't really know till I'm done, because if the video is really long and I have to cut cut and paste a lot, I can't do it to where it makes any kind of sense as to what I'm talking about. So, you know, it just, I don't know till the end. But I thought I would come on here and say hello to everybody. All right, guys, so let's get going. Okay, so here are the two pictures I'm going to use. I have the originals on these, and I made some copies of these early 1900s beautiful postcards. I think they were meant for like a greeting card kind of thing. Anyway, I'm kind of cutting them out, positioning them on there. And we're going to be making two different tags with them. I'm going to be doing some collaging, and I'm going to just use some old sheet music, dictionary page, some book page. I'm mainly looking for different textures and different colors of paper. I like to have it mixed up a little bit when I do collaging. And you're not going to see that much of it when it's done. I mean, you will see kind of it through the layers, but it's not going to be that prominent. So now I'm just going to cut out my cards or my little pictures. And you know what, guys? You can use a lot of different digitals. There's a lot of good digitals out there. You wouldn't have to have your own postcard. I happen to have these, and I had intended at some point to make a journal with them on the cover. And I probably will at some point, but for right now, we're going to make these two tags. And I'm using my distresser tool to distress the one picture, and I will do that to the other also. I'm going for kind of a very distressed old look in this. I want it to look like something that has been around for, 80, 100 years or whatever, just kind of passed on. It's very vintage looking, so that's kind of what I'm looking at. I cut out the other one. One of them has a lot of pink hues in it, and the other one has a lot of blue. They're two really, really cute pictures. So I'm just basically doing the same thing. You're going to be seeing me do a lot of the same thing on this whole two cards, because I'm, making two cards. So, and they're going to be very similar, but a little different. So I'm going to go ahead and do all of that again. Ink everything up, which is really important when you want to have something look very vintage. So now I'm going to go ahead and just start putting down my papers. I decided I needed some book page. I really, honestly, the biggest thing I do when I'm doing collaging is I'm looking for different fonts, different colors of paper, different papers age differently. And that is what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to mix it up. I don't want it to be the same. Even though in the end you don't see that much. And I'll even add more layers on top of that. But it's what happens is when you start layering things, it gives it a completely different look than if you just put down, one thing. So we're going to keep doing that. And I use I buy the tacky glue from the dollar store, the little bottles, and I just put about 50% water with that because it's pretty thick glue. But any kind of white glue would work. And I'm just going to, put a little glue down, put a little paper down. And all I'm trying to do is mix it up. So the thing is, you won't see a lot of this. It'll be covered. But you don't know for sure what all you're going to see. So, and I don't worry about if something's upside down or not. That doesn't really concern me at all because you're not really going to be noticing it that much. It's mainly for texture and just for interest. And so you're not going to, in the end, you're not going to really notice so much that the music paper sideways or upside down or something like that. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. Nothing that exciting, you know, but it's just part of the process. Again, you could skip this whole step if you didn't want that layered effect. You could just take this and put it on some interesting scrapbook paper. There's a lot of scrapbook papers out there that look like they're mixed media, and you could certainly do that. But the one thing it doesn't do, honestly, is it doesn't give you that textured look. It doesn't give you where the ink is in all the nook and crannies and stuff like that, or the different layers. And I don't know. And a lot of the times too, I don't think you can tell on camera what it looks like. Okay, so there's my collaging, and I like it because it looks very, very different all over. And I'm going to cut out my tag now, so I have the basis of what I'm going to be working on. And I mean, if you don't want to go any further than that, you could go that far and not do anything else. But I will take this and, of course, do at least 2 or 3 more steps. So, you know me. Anyway, what would be the point in watching it if all we're doing is gluing down paper, right, guys? So, all right, so now I've got some tissue paper, and I don't think we've done anything with tissue paper yet. So that's kind of why I decided to do this video. Anyway, this is from a dollar store, and honestly, I love this. I buy it every time I see it because I use it a lot. It has this kind of foiled gold and silver, and it looks really fun on the page. Again, you will not see that much of it on this particular tag, but on others, I've left more of it out there. Okay, so now I've got some vellum that I have embossed, and I am going to be using parts of it, not all of it. I just have sheets of it. When I do it, I do several sheets at one time. So I'm going to get out my gold rub and buff, and what I'm going to do is I'm looking for the right color gold. So I'm just going to take my rub and buff, and I'm going to use silver and gold. And then I'm going to just take a little bit of the gold right now because that's what I'm working with. And I have too much on my fingers, so I'm rubbing it on the edges, which I'm going to do again later. But if I have too much, I don't like to waste it. And I'm going to just go over this raised portion of the embossing. And the thing is, you won't see that much of it when it's done, but the texture is going to actually grab ink. And it's basically the same thing as putting down texture paste, because that texture paste is grabbing the ink when you put other layers down. So, but I'm putting the gold on it because just to add interest to it. And I'm not looking for perfection. It's just going to eventually all kind of blend together. But that is what I'm doing. So I'm just putting some on the embossed sections of the paper. Okay, so I've got it on there pretty good. And now I'm just going to take it and cut it in half so I can tear it. And now I'm going to just tear portions of it and of the gold tissue paper. And I'm just going to put them all over my tag. And I'm going to just put them on the same way. And the thing is, you'll see through the vellum, and you'll see through the, now I'm thinking, do I want to put these other, any other vellum on there other than what I already did? So just kind of looking at it. So now I'm going to take the tissue paper, and I'm going to pretty much just start putting pieces down all over. And I'm not really looking for, any certain pattern or anything. I'm just kind of randomly putting pieces down. And I'm not trying to cover the whole thing. Or I could have just taken a piece and covered the whole thing. I'm trying to make it look kind of random. And just going all the way around it. Tearing little pieces here and there. There's no real rhyme or reason when I do this. It just kind of do it whenever, I think it needs a piece. So, see, this is why I do music, because I don't know what to say at this point, because I'm doing the same thing over and over again. I don't know, guys. Anyway, so now I'm going to go ahead and just take my pieces of vellum and I'm going to put those on. Now the vellum is kind of hard to stick down sometimes, so you might have to kind of use your fingers and kind of smush it down a little bit, but it'll stick on okay. It just takes a little bit more glue and a little bit more patience. But the cool thing about the vellum and the tissue paper is that you can see the other papers underneath it. So you get a very layered effect. And, the gold is there for accents mainly, but the vellum is there because it's embossed. It really adds a lot of texture to your to whatever it is you're doing. And if you add another layer of ink, even if it's just brown or, if you're staining it or whatever, all that stain or whatever you're using is gonna catch on those embossed pieces, and also like the edges of your paper that you've torn too. So that's what gives it all that really cool effect. And that's why I like to use the embossed vellum, because it does the same thing tissue paper is, but because you've embossed it, then you've got that extra texture. So I'm just taking my little thing. That's supposed to be like a lip scrubber, guys, that I got from the dollar store, which I bought several of them, and I do have one for a lip scrubber, but in any case, what I do is I use that as kind of a little sticker down thing. I used to use that little thing I have over there to the right, and I still use that. But the other thing is it almost acts like a finger, and I love it. It's great for when you're using hot glue too, and it's made out of silicone, so it's really, really easy to clean. Okay, so now I'm opening up the silver, and we're going to go through the same process with the silver. Cutting pieces of silver and putting it on the tag. I'm going to go all over and do that, just like we did with the gold. But I'm telling you, once you get this, and there's other, wrapping paper out there that has that kind of look to it. But I love using this stuff. I have like another pattern where it's not as prominent, and I use that too. But I love using tissue paper because you can look right through it and add so many layers. It adds, so much to something. Tissue paper and napkins. Can't really get by without it. I think I want to do a napkin swap at some point. I think that would be good. Because, when you buy your napkins, you get like, 20 napkins, and I don't use that many. So anyway, so I'm doing the silver all over just like I did the gold. And I know that my picture is going to go in the middle. A lot of this you may not see, but part of the ends you will see. So I just go ahead and put it all down, and I don't know. And if some of it's wrinkled or something, I don't worry too much because that's just going to add to the character. So now I'm getting out my vellum that I want to use for that. And I can't really decide here either. I think I'm just going to use the snowflakes. I think that'll look cool. So I'm just putting some silver on the embossed portion, the raised portion of the snowflakes. And this is so you'll notice them a little bit because even they're going to be covered up a lot, but you will see some of them. So anyway, going all over. So now that's what it looks like when I'm done adding. It doesn't look like much, I know. But you have to realize that all that vellum, when it dries, will be see-through. Okay, so now I've dried it and I've cut around it again. And it's completely dry. That's the most important thing to go on to this next step. So we are going to be adding some paint. Okay, so I am just going to put down some paint. This is stain that I'm using here, guys. And the thing is, the difference you'll find on the two tags is one of them I'm using stain and one of them I'm using oxide spray. And there is a difference because one is more translucent than the other. So that's kind of what happens here. So I'm trying to add just kind of that raspberry color. And then now I'm going to add some green because there is a little green in the one tag and then it also has blue. So it has multiple colors in it. And I'm kind of not sure about adding the blue to it. I'm kind of, I'm not 100% positive that's what I want to do. So we shall see. So I dry it a little bit. I have to dry in between each one. If you don't, your colors will get very muddy. So I kind of decide I'm going to put a little blue down. And first I kind of paint it on, thinking I want to be, careful with it. But then I didn't dilute it. So it's kind of strong in that one area. So I'm going to go ahead and probably just dilute it and do it because otherwise it gets too strong. And I'd rather put the water. I'm just using my gel plate kind of as a just a place to put the ink down. But it helps too if you're going to be pressing it in there. So I have a smaller gel plate that I use a lot, mainly just for that. So it's a handy thing to have. So I'm just adding some blue and mixing it up a little bit. Now I got the Liquitex out. And it's the matte gel medium. And the reason I'm using that is this is after I've already dried it, okay? So I've dried it and I'm going to put that on because I'm going to be adding another layer to this. And what I'm doing is a water-based thing. And if you put the matte medium on, then it's not going to smear your colors all together. So those colors will just dry and then I can put something over them. So now basically I'm doing the same thing. So here's my other tag. And I'm looking at the different colors that I have, trying to decide which blues. It's mainly blues and grays in the other picture. So, but there's a big variation between blues. Now I'm using the oxides on this. And the difference on this is it's not as translucent. So you're not going to see as much of the music paper and other papers behind it when it's done because it's not as translucent as the distress stains. They're just a different formula and different. The oxide's more of a chalky finish, but you can still see through it. It's just not as much. So now I'm looking at my other colors and I think the blue's a little bit darker than I want it. So it's just to taking and adding and taking and adding. And if I have too much on my tag, I just take some off. But I'm trying really hard not to add too many layers so you can still see all the layers that are underneath. So I just keep doing that until I get it the way I want it. And now I have a gray color that I'm going to put on because I think it needs a little bit more gray. Yeah, I'm liking that better because the blue was a little bit too dark. So I'm going to do that. I think that really tones it down a lot. I'm a lot happier with that. So, and it's really hard to tell when you're using Distress Oxide what it's going to look like until it's completely dry. Because it always looks, I think, quite a bit different than when, you put it on wet. So now I'm just adding a little bit more here and there. Just trying to get it to the point that I want it. I decide that it's still a little dark in a spot, so I'm going to add some white to it. I'm not happy with how the white spots are. I mean, I wanted them to spread out more. So I just added some water to it. And now it's getting a lot closer to what I wanted. It's looking a lot more like, what I want. So anyway, that's kind of all I do to that. And then when I'm done, and I dry it, and then I go ahead and put my matte medium on it. And that's, again, just to seal it so I can put another coat on. So now I'm going to use some Stains by Patty Pockets. And I really like this stuff, guys, because what it does is it seals it, but it gives it kind of a vintage look because it has a dark color to it. And I'm really putting it on. I love this stuff. I put it on. Now, if I had not sealed that with the matte medium, then what would happen is all those colors would just smear together, which they don't do. If you notice, they just stay true. And it actually brings out the color more. And the fun thing about it is that it gets in all the little nooks and crannies of your papers. And that's why all those layers that, come into play is that you are then that stain is going to, you're going to see all those different cracks and crevices and torn paper and your vellum. So now I'm just distressing the sides. Of course, I had dried it again, made sure it was really dry. And then I'm going ahead and distressing the sides of my tag. And I'm going to put some vintage photo on and just make sure that the tags are distressed. Or I think I put walnut. Yeah, that's walnut stain. So, and I think I usually use that when I want something to look a little bit more distressed. So we are basically just doing the same thing on both tags. And I know it doesn't look like much, but it will. They have two completely different looks. One, the stain is very opaque, and the other one is very translucent. Okay, so now I'm getting my iron out because what I'm doing is I'm adding some beeswax. And the reason I'm doing that is, one, it seals the picture, but also it adds this very vintage look to your picture. So I want this to have a vintage look when it's done. And the beeswax really does do that. It's super easy to do too. And it doesn't leave it sticky or anything like that. Anyway, so now I have my beeswax cover, or my beeswax, girl. And now I've got some of this tulle, and I've got a gold and I've got a silver. And I'm going to put them on appropriately. And I'm using my glue stick only because I am going to be sewing around this, and I'm also going to be gluing the back of both of the tulle and the picture. I'm going to be putting some other glue down on my actual tag. So I'm just using glue stick to position it is all I'm doing. So anyway, that's all I do it for. So now I'm going to just trim around it, and I'm not trying to be even or anything like that. I'm just approximately getting it to the shape that I want it. I want it to look kind of random and not, perfect. That's the goal. And I'm going to do that to the other one. And it may not seem like, you can see it that well, but all those layers of texture come through, and that tulle coming through there, you'll notice that too. It just kind of sparkles around the side. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'm going to position my picture onto the tag and figure out how I'm going to put it. And I'm not going to put it just straight on because I very, very rarely do that. So now I'm going to add some 3-in-1 glue onto my picture. And I'm using the 3-in-1. It's important because it is a little hard to glue things down after they've been beeswaxed a little bit because it's a little bit slippery, but it's not impossible. You just have to use better glue and, position it better. So anyway, that's all I'm doing there. And put both of them down. Okay, so now I'm just going to put some vintage photo around the edges just to kind of, make sure that it has that vintage look. And I'm going to go ahead and do that around both of the pictures and make sure they're ready to go. Do the same thing on the other one. And I'm going to take some of my gold Rub 'n Buff again, and I'm going to start going around the edges with that. I'm doing around the picture and the tag. And I'm going to put a little bit of the same gold on my little star I'm going to put on there just because I want it kind of all to blend, and I don't want it to look so sparkly. I want it to look a little bit more vintage. And also by adding another color and blending it, it doesn't look as flat. It has more dimension to it. So anyway, going to keep putting my vintage photo on there until I get it the way I want it. Put it around the edges of where I already put the gold. And then I'm going to also pounce it and put it on my star. Because again, I'm trying to make this look like it's been around for a while. So I do the same thing to the silver. And I'd already gone around the silver with the Rub 'n Buff the same way that I did the other one. And I'm going to do that. Make sure I've got some vintage photo around that. So now what I did is I just placed my gold star on my gold one. And I kind of did it to where I put an eyelet through the middle of it on that one. And I mainly decided where I was going to place them based on where it looked good with that particular picture. So now I'm just putting on, I have these little pieces of jewelry that I thought would look pretty with these. And I have decided I'm going to put part of a star on the bottom and add my numbers on the bottom. I think that's how they're going to look the best. So I'm just painting my wood numbers because they're about the best size that I have for that. So I'm going to use those. And I'm just using my Rub 'n Buff to paint them. And I know that kind of blends in, but that's kind of how I want it. I don't really want it to stick out. As I said before, trying to find a place to put the numbers has not been that easy. So, but we're managing. Okay, so now I just cut off my star and got everything all ready, got it all evened out there. And the big thing is just placing everything. So now I've got to figure out where I'm going to put the silver one, which I don't think it looks as good in the middle there for some reason. So, and I want to, I just want to do them different. I think it looks good off to the side. So I'm going to do that, but I just have to figure out where exactly I want to put it. I don't want it coming down too far onto the picture, but I know that I want it to overlap a little bit. So anyway, I'm just trying to make sure everything is down where it needs to be. I'm going to go ahead and put my 21 down on my tag. And now I've got placing my star on my silver one. And I got these stars from, it was a card making kit that I got from Anna Griffin many years ago. And these are just bits and pieces that I had left over. Because I told you guys when I was shopping my stash that I was finding all kinds of things. I need to do that more. So now I'm pretty much done.